Hey everyone, Sarah here. Rewind Justice brings you revenge stories that will blow your mind. If you're ready, hit subscribe and let's go.
The seizures started when I was 19. Not the dramatic, convulsing on the floor kind that people recognize from television. Mine were absence seizures, brief moments where I'd simply stop, frozen mid-sentence, staring at nothing, gone for 10 to 30 seconds before returning to a world that had continued without me. "You're just spacing out," my older sister Rachel said the first time she witnessed one. "Everyone zones out sometimes, Maya. Don't be so dramatic." Rachel was in her second year of medical school. She'd scored in the 99th percentile on the MCA. She was everything our parents had wanted in a daughter. Ambitious, driven, destined for a white coat and a name plaque on a prestigious hospital wall. I was the younger sister who'd chosen art history. The one who worked at a small museum making $38,000 a year cataloging 18th century porcelain. The disappointment. It took 6 months and 4 different doctors before I got the diagnosis. Temporal lobe epilepsy. The neurologist explained it carefully. The misfiring electrical signals in my brain, the unpredictability of the episodes, the medications that would help but never completely eliminate the seizures. "You'll need to be careful," Dr. Sarachin told me. "No driving until we get this controlled. Avoid situations where a sudden loss of awareness could be dangerous. Swimming alone, heights, operating machinery. For how long? That depends on how you respond to treatment. Some patients achieve complete seizure control. Others manage them but never fully eliminate the risk." I was 20 when I told my family. Rachel's response: "Are you sure you're not just having anxiety attacks? Medical students get them all the time. You learn to push through." My father's response: "Maybe you need to sleep more. You better. Stop looking for problems." My mother said nothing, but her expression spoke volumes. Another thing wrong with the daughter who couldn't measure up. The seizures continued. The medication helped. I went from 3 or 4 episodes a week to maybe 1 every 10 days. But they never stopped completely. And my family never stopped questioning whether they were real. My grandmother died 3 weeks before my 21st birthday. Evelyn Martinez had been a force of nature. A woman who'd built a successful textile import business in the 1960s when banks still required women to have male co-signers for loans. She'd done it anyway, forging partnerships and building an empire that she'd eventually sold for $43 million. I'd spent summers with her as a kid, listening to stories about the early days of her business. The clients who'd underestimated her. The competitors who'd tried to sabotage her. The quiet satisfaction of proving them all wrong. "Maya," she told me the summer before she died, "you don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to be strategic." The will reading happened on a gray October morning. Rachel showed up in her white coat, straight from a hospital rotation. I came from the museum, wearing the same black dress I'd worn to the funeral. The attorney read through the standard provisions. Mom and Dad received the house in Connecticut. Rachel got Grandma's collection of medical textbooks and her grandmother's wedding ring. Then he got to my section. "To Maya Martinez, I leave the entirety of my investment portfolio, currently valued at $8.7 million, with the express instruction that she use it to build something meaningful that the world doesn't expect from her." Rachel's face went white. "That can't be right. I assure you it's correct." The attorney slid a folder across the table. "Ms. Martinez, these are the account details and transfer documents." My father leaned forward. "Evelyn left her entire fortune to Maya? The one who works at a museum making barely enough to cover rent?" "That is correct." Rachel stood up. "This is insane. She's not responsible enough to handle that kind of money. She has seizures. She can barely manage her own life." Nevertheless, those were Ms. Martinez's wishes. I took the folder. Inside were account statements, stock portfolios, real estate holdings. My grandmother had spent 40 years building wealth, and she'd left it all to the granddaughter everyone dismissed. "Maya," Mom said quietly, "you'll need help managing this. Maybe Rachel could." "No." I met Rachel's eyes. "Grandma left it to me. I'll handle it." "You're going to waste it," Rachel said. "On what? Art supplies? Museum donations? You don't understand finance. You don't understand investment strategy." "Then I'll learn." I walked out of that office with $8.7 million and a burning determination to prove that Grandma's faith in me wasn't misplaced. I spent the next 6 months learning everything I could about wealth management. I hired a financial advisor, not the one my father recommended, but a woman named Teresa Kim who specialized in impact investing and philanthropic strategy. "What do you want to do with this money?" Teresa asked during our first meeting. "Something my grandmother would be proud of. Something that matters." "What matters to you?" I thought about Dr. Sarachin, the neurologist who'd taken me seriously when my family didn't. The research she'd mentioned. Underfunded studies on epilepsy treatment, investigations into new therapeutic approaches that couldn't get grants because sexier diseases attracted bigger donors. "Medical research," I said. "Specifically neurology. Epilepsy, chronic neurological conditions, invisible disabilities." Teresa smiled. "Then let's build something." We structured it as a private foundation, the Evelyn Martinez Foundation for Neurological Research. It launched quietly in 2019 with an initial endowment of $5.2 million. The remaining $3.5 million, I invested in a carefully diversified portfolio that Teresa helped me construct. Over the next 4 years, that foundation grew. The investments performed well. I added money annually. By 2023, the Evelyn Martinez Foundation had awarded $12.4 million in research grants to 17 different institutions, including a $9.3 million endowment to the Neurology Department at University Medical Center, the hospital where my sister Rachel had just accepted a position as a junior attending neurologist. He had no idea I was the donor. Rachel's career progressed exactly as expected. Residency at Mass General, research fellowship at Johns Hopkins, then back to University Medical Center as an attending physician in their prestigious neurology department. Our parents treated her success as vindication, proof that their investment in the right daughter had paid off. "Rachel's on track to make department head within 10 years, Dad told me at Thanksgiving 2022. "She's already published 4 papers this year." "That's great. What about you, Maya? Still at the museum?" "Still there. You know, it's not too late to go back to school. Get a real degree. Maybe something in arts administration. At least make a decent salary." I was making $180,000 a year in investment returns alone, but I'd never told them about the foundation. Never mentioned the financial advisor or the portfolio or the fact that I'd turned Grandma's $8.7 million into $14.2 million through careful management and strategic growth. Rachel knew nothing about the Evelyn Martinez Foundation. To her, I was still the younger sister who'd wasted an inheritance on whatever frivolous things people like me wasted money on. The seizures became ammunition. Maya spaced out again at dinner, she'd tell our parents after family gatherings. Right in the middle of a conversation. "It's embarrassing. Are you taking your medication?" Mom would ask. "Every day. Maybe you need a higher dose. Or a different medication. Have you talked to your neurologist?" "Dr. Chin and I communicate regularly." Rachel would scoff. "Sarah Chin? She's competent, I suppose. Though her research focus is pretty narrow. She's not exactly at the forefront of the field." What Rachel didn't know, Dr. Sarah Chin had received 2 grants from my foundation. $340,000 for a study on treatment-resistant temporal lobe epilepsy. $180,000 for research on quality-of-life interventions for patients with chronic seizure disorders. I'd funded the research that was keeping her narrow focus alive. Christmas 2023. My parents hosted at their house in Connecticut, the one they'd inherited from Grandma, though they'd renovated it so thoroughly that almost nothing of her remained. Rachel arrived with her husband James, a cardiothoracic surgeon she'd met during residency. They had a 2-year-old daughter named Sophie who Rachel described as already showing signs of advanced cognitive development. I arrived alone. I'd been seeing someone casually, but nothing serious enough to subject them to a Martinez family Christmas. Dinner was prime rib, roasted vegetables, and the usual undercurrent of competitive achievement disguised as conversation. "James just got offered the chief of surgery position at Mercy Hospital," Rachel announced over appetizers. "Youngest person to ever hold the role." "That's wonderful," Mom said. "You two are just accomplishing so much." "What about you, Maya?" Rachel turned to me with that smile she'd perfected, the one that looked supportive but landed like a knife. "Any exciting developments at the museum? We're opening a new exhibition on Renaissance ceramics in February." "Ceramics? How quaint. It's actually a fascinating period for. I stopped mid-sentence. Not intentionally. Not as a dramatic pause. I just stopped. The absence seizure lasted maybe 20 seconds. Long enough for the conversation to halt. Long enough for everyone to notice. When I came back, Rachel was staring at me with an expression I'd seen 1,000 times. Part concern. Mostly annoyance. "Did you just have an episode?" she asked. "Yes. At Christmas dinner. In front of Sophie. I don't control when they happen, Rachel. Have you been taking your medication?" "Every single day." "Then maybe you need to see a different neurologist. Someone who can actually manage your condition instead of just enabling it. Dr. Chin is an excellent neurologist. Dr. Chin is average at best. Her research is derivative. Her treatment approaches are outdated. You're using her because she tells you what you want to hear instead of pushing you to actually get better." My father set down his fork. "Rachel's probably right, Maya. Maybe it's time for a second opinion. I'm happy with my care." "You're having seizures at family dinner," Rachel said. "That's not happy. That's not controlled. That's you choosing to accept a condition you could probably overcome with the right treatment and the right mindset." "You think epilepsy is about mindset?" "I think a lot of chronic conditions are exacerbated by patients who identify too strongly with being sick. You've made epilepsy your whole personality, Maya. Everyone has to accommodate you. Everyone has to worry about you. It's exhausting." "Rachel," Mom said quietly, "that's a little harsh." "Is it?" "She's been doing this for 6 years. 6 years of seizures and medication and doctor's appointments and everyone tiptoeing around her. At some point, you have to wonder if she's even trying to get better or if she just likes the attention." The table went quiet. I looked at my sister. Dr. Rachel Martinez, junior attending neurologist, published researcher, rising star in her field. A woman whose department had just received a $9.3 million endowment from an anonymous donor who believed in supporting neurological research. A woman who thought her sister was faking seizures for attention. "You're an attention-seeking faker," Rachel said, her voice clear and certain. "Everyone knows it." Dad nodded. "So pathetic." I smiled. Pulled out my phone. Opened my encrypted messaging app and texted my attorney. "Revoke the $9.3 million anonymous endowment to University Medical Center Neurology Department. Effective immediately. Explain donor concerns about departmental culture and patient care philosophy." I hit send. Then I looked up at Rachel. "You're right. I should probably focus on things that actually matter." My attorney, David Park, was efficient. By 10 a.m. the next morning, December 26th, the formal revocation notice had been delivered to University Medical Center's development office and the neurology department chair. By 11 a.m. my phone started ringing. I ignored the calls. All of them. By 2 p.m. I had 17 voicemails. Most from numbers I didn't recognize. 1 from Dr. Sarah Chin. 2 from Rachel. I listened to Dr. Chen's first. "Maya, it's Sarah. I don't know if you've heard, but the neurology department just lost their major endowment. The anonymous donor who funded our research initiative withdrew the entire $9.3 million grant. The department is in crisis. They're calling an emergency meeting. If you have any connections in the philanthropic world, any insights into why a donor might pull funding like this, I could really use your help." She sounded devastated. I called her back. "Sarah, it's Maya." "Oh, thank God. Maya, I don't know what to do. That endowment was funding my research. It was funding 3 other major studies. The department head is talking about layoffs. They might have to shut down the entire epilepsy research program." "I know. I'm the donor, Sarah." Silence. "What?" "The Evelyn Martinez Foundation. That's my foundation. I'm the anonymous donor who gave University Medical Center $9.3 million. And as of this morning I revoked it." "I don't." "Maya, why?" "Because my sister works in that department. Because she spent Christmas dinner telling me I'm an attention-seeking faker who's exaggerating my epilepsy. Because she called you average and derivative and said your research is outdated. Because I've spent 6 years funding research that she directly benefits from while she tells everyone in our family that I'm pathetic." Rachel said that? About you. In front of our entire family. While my father nodded along. More silence. Then, the department head called an emergency meeting for tomorrow. All attending physicians are required to attend. He's going to explain what happened and discuss next steps. Will Rachel be there? Everyone will be there. Good. The emergency meeting happened Friday morning. I wasn't there, but Sarah called me afterward and told me everything. Dr. Michael Torres, department head, had started by explaining the situation. The anonymous donor who'd provided the $9.3 million endowment had withdrawn their funding. The revocation notice cited concerns about departmental culture and patient care philosophy. What does that mean? One of the residents had asked. It means, Dr. Torres said, that somewhere in this department someone said or did something that violated the donor's values badly enough that they pulled nearly $10 million. Rachel had been sitting in the back. According to Sarah, she'd looked confused but not concerned. This wasn't about her. It couldn't be about her. Dr. Torres continued. The donor's attorney provided some context. Apparently, a family member of the donor, a patient with a neurological condition, was told by someone affiliated with this department that they were attention-seeking and faking their symptoms. The donor interpreted this as evidence of systemic problems in how we view and treat patients with chronic neurological conditions. Sarah said you could feel the energy in the room shift. People looking at each other, wondering who'd screwed up badly enough to cost them $9.3 million. I need to know, Dr. Torres said, if anyone in this room has made comments, to patients, to colleagues, to anyone, that could be interpreted as dismissive of chronic neurological conditions. Specifically epilepsy, chronic pain, or invisible disabilities. Rachel's hand apparently did not go up. Because whoever said this, Dr. Torres continued, didn't just insult a patient. They insulted the family member of our largest donor. And now we've lost funding that was supporting 4 major research initiatives, 6 staff positions, and our entire epilepsy program. Sarah raised her hand. Do we know who the donor is? The attorney wouldn't provide identifying information. Just that the donor is someone with deep ties to neurological research and a personal stake in how we treat patients with conditions like epilepsy. Rachel left the meeting early. Sarah said she looked pale. By Friday afternoon, Rachel had called me 11 times. I didn't answer. Rachel showed up at my apartment Saturday morning. I watched through the peephole as she rang the bell repeatedly. Knocked. Rang again. Finally, I opened the door. You destroyed my department, she said. No greeting. No preamble. That endowment was funding research that matters. Real research that helps real patients. And you pulled it because I hurt your feelings. I pulled it because you told me I was an attention-seeking faker. At Christmas dinner. In front of our entire family. I was frustrated. You had a seizure in the middle of dinner, Maya. You disrupted everything. I had a seizure because I have epilepsy. A condition you, as a neurologist, should understand is not something I can control through willpower or positive thinking. I know it's not. She stopped. Stared at me. Wait. How did you even know about the endowment? How did you know it was pulled? Because I'm the donor, Rachel. The Evelyn Martinez Foundation. That's my foundation. Her face went through several expressions. Confusion. Disbelief. Realization. That's impossible. You work at a museum making nothing. You can't have the kind of money to. Grandma left me $8.7 million. I turned it into $14.2 million. I've been running a medical research foundation for 4 years. I've awarded over $12 million in grants, including $9.3 million to your department. You've had millions of dollars and never told us? Why would I? So Dad could tell me I was wasting it? So you could lecture me about proper investment strategies while calling me pathetic? I didn't mean. You meant every word. You've spent 6 years telling me my epilepsy is exaggerated. That I'm using it for attention. That Dr. Chin is a mediocre neurologist who's enabling my victim complex. Dr. Chin, Rachel. The woman I've given over $500,000 to fund research on treatment-resistant epilepsy. Research that directly supports patients like me who don't fit into your neat little boxes of trying hard enough. Rachel sat down on my couch without being invited. You funded Sarah's research? I funded 4 different research initiatives in your department. Sarah's epilepsy studies. Dr. Patel's work on chronic pain in neurological patients. The Quality of Life Research Program. The new imaging equipment in the epilepsy monitoring unit. That was all me. Why? Because neurological research is underfunded. Because patients with invisible disabilities are constantly dismissed and told their conditions aren't real. Because I wanted to support the kind of work that actually helps people instead of just publishing flashy papers that get you promoted. She looked at her hands. The department is talking about layoffs. We might have to shut down the epilepsy program entirely. Sarah's research is dead. The patients in our monitoring unit might have to be transferred. I know. You'd really destroy all of that, all of those patients' care, all of that research, to punish me? I'm not punishing you, Rachel. I'm refusing to fund a department where one of the attending physicians thinks patients like me are attention-seeking fakers. Would you donate millions of dollars to a program where the staff fundamentally don't respect the patients they're treating? It was one comment. At a family dinner. I was frustrated. It was 6 years of comments. 6 years of you dismissing my condition. 6 years of you telling our parents that I'm exaggerating, that I just need to try harder, that any neurologist who takes me seriously is second-rate. One comment at Christmas dinner was just the one I couldn't ignore anymore. She stood up. What do you want? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry I didn't realize you were secretly rich and could destroy my career on a whim. I'm sorry I didn't know I had to treat my own sister like a fragile patient who might pull funding if I said the wrong thing. That's not an apology. That's you being angry that actions have consequences. Then what do you want? I looked at her. Dr. Rachel Martinez. Brilliant. Accomplished. Completely incapable of seeing patients as anything other than problems to be solved or failures to be dismissed. I want you to understand that invisible disabilities are real. That chronic conditions don't disappear because someone tries harder. That patients deserve doctors who believe them. And I want you to know that the work you do, the research you benefit from, the equipment you use, the programs that make your department prestigious, that doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists because people like me fund it. People you called pathetic. So you're not giving the money back. Not to a department where you work, no. She left without another word. Dr. Michael Torres called me Sunday evening. Ms. Martinez, my name is Michael Torres. I'm the department head of neurology at University Medical Center. I was hoping we could talk about the endowment withdrawal. I'm listening. Dr. Chin told me you're the donor. That the comment about attention-seeking came from your sister, Dr. Rachel Martinez, who is on our staff. That's correct. I want to be very clear. What she said to you is completely unacceptable. It violates every principle we're supposed to uphold in treating patients with neurological conditions. If she'd said that to a patient in our clinic, she'd be facing disciplinary action. But because she said it to her sister at Christmas dinner, it doesn't count? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we have a problem in our department. A cultural problem. And your decision to withdraw funding has forced us to confront it. I waited. I've reviewed Dr. Martinez's patient satisfaction scores. They're lower than average. I've looked at her communication patterns with chronic pain patients and epilepsy patients. There's a pattern of dismissiveness that I should have addressed sooner. This situation, losing $9.3 million, that's the wake-up call we needed. What are you proposing? Dr. Martinez has been placed on administrative review. She'll be required to complete additional training in patient communication and chronic disease management before she can return to full clinical duties. If her performance doesn't improve, we'll have to reconsider her position. That's a start. More than that, we want to restructure how we approach patient care. Implement mandatory training for all staff on invisible disabilities. Create a patient advisory board where people with chronic neurological conditions can provide feedback on how we're actually serving them. Build the kind of department that deserves your funding. Why should I believe you'll follow through? Because losing $9.3 million taught us that our reputation means nothing if our patient care is failing. Because Dr. Chin spent the last 2 days explaining to me exactly how revolutionary your funding has been for research that most institutions ignore. Because we want to be the kind of program that someone like you, someone who lives with a neurological condition, would trust with their support. I thought about Dr. Sarah Chin. About the other researchers whose work would disappear without funding. About the patients in the epilepsy monitoring unit who'd have to find care elsewhere. I'll consider restoring the funding on 3 conditions, I said. Name them. First, Rachel cannot hold any position where she supervises or evaluates other physicians' patient care. She can do research. She can see patients under supervision. But she doesn't get to set the cultural tone. Agreed. Second, the department implements real structural changes. Not a one-day seminar on bedside manner. Actual ongoing training. Actual accountability. Actual patient input. We'll do it. Third, I want quarterly reports on patient satisfaction metrics, specifically for chronic condition patients. If I see patterns of dismissiveness or disbelief, the funding disappears again. Permanently. You'll have them. Then draft the terms. My attorney will review them. If everything's in order, the funding will be restored within 30 days. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Don't thank me. Earn it. The University Medical Center Neurology Department announced its restructuring in February 2024. Mandatory training for all staff on chronic neurological conditions. A patient advisory board with real decision-making input. Quarterly patient satisfaction reviews with transparent reporting. Dr. Rachel Martinez was reassigned to a research-only position. No patient contact. No supervisory responsibilities. She published 2 papers that spring. Both were competent. Neither acknowledged the foundation funding that made her research possible. We didn't speak. Our parents called once trying to mediate. I told them the same thing I'd told Rachel. Actions have consequences. If they wanted a relationship with me, they needed to acknowledge that dismissing my disability for 6 years had damaged something fundamental. They chose silence. I was fine with that. The Evelyn Martinez Foundation expanded. We funded 3 new research initiatives. We partnered with patient advocacy organizations. We created mentorship programs for people with chronic conditions who wanted to enter medical research or healthcare administration. I did an interview with a medical philanthropy journal in June. They asked why I focused on neurology. Because I have epilepsy, I said. Because I know what it's like to have doctors dismiss your symptoms. Because I watched family members with medical degrees tell me my condition wasn't real. Because I want to fund the kind of research and patient care that treats people with invisible disabilities like their experiences actually matter. The article ran with my photo. My full name. My foundation's mission statement. Rachel saw it. I know because Dr. Chin mentioned it. She asked if you were really giving interviews now, Sarah said during one of our quarterly coffee meetings. If you were really going public with the foundation. What did you tell her? I told her you'd been public for months. That the foundation's website lists you as founder and director. That anyone who bothered to look could have found you. She never looked. No. She assumed you were still the little sister who worked at a museum. She couldn't imagine you'd built something this significant. I smiled. Grandma always said the best power is the kind people don't see coming. Christmas 2024. I hosted at my apartment for the first time. Dr. Sarah Chin came, along with 2 other researchers from the Foundation's grant programs. My financial advisor Teresa. My attorney David. A few friends from the museum who'd been quietly supportive through everything. No family. I didn't invite them. We ate catered food, drank good wine, and talked about the year's successes. Sarah's epilepsy research had gotten preliminary results that looked promising. Dr. Patel's chronic pain study had been accepted for publication in a major journal. The Patient Advisory Board had successfully pushed for 3 significant policy changes in how the department handled chronic condition patients. You've built something remarkable, Teresa said, raising her glass. Your grandmother would be proud. I thought about Grandma. About the $8.7 million she'd left me with instructions to build something meaningful that the world doesn't expect. About my sister still working in a research-only position, still publishing papers, still benefiting from funding she'd nearly destroyed. About the fact that I'd had 2 absence seizures that day, one during breakfast, one while getting ready, and nobody at this dinner would call me an attention-seeking faker. To meaningful work, I said, raising my glass. And to proving people wrong quietly. We drank to that. Outside, snow was starting to fall. Inside, I was surrounded by people who believed in the same things I did. That invisible disabilities deserved visible support, that research mattered, that patients were people first. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I saw the Foundation's annual report. The work you're doing is important. I'm sorry for what I said. Rachel. I read it twice. Then I set the phone down and returned to the conversation happening around my table. Maybe someday I'd respond. Maybe someday we'd find a way to rebuild something from the ruins of our relationship. But tonight I was celebrating the empire I'd built from the inheritance nobody thought I deserved, funding the research nobody thought mattered, proving that the dismissed daughter knew exactly what she was doing. The seizures hadn't stopped. They probably never would. But I'd stopped letting other people define what they meant.